In this video, we will present to you the data analysis part of the qualitative project on the topic to what extent are musicians in Bulgaria motivated by diverse organizational incentives. We will talk about our interviews along with the open and axial coding we conducted. We are Martin, Sofia, Diana and Tommy from Group 6, who will focus specifically on the process of interviewing employees of the National Music Academy of Sofia in Bulgaria. The questions we established provide insight into the subjects of job design, namely job identity, job significance and job sharing, as well as intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors. To answer our research question, we conducted 4 interviews, 2 of which were done face-to-face in the language of the employees, Bulgarian, and the other 2 in English via Zoom. In this video, we will use data from the Zoom interviews. The interviews were semi-structured and contained 7 questions that were prepared in advance. The first one was more demographic, asking about the name and the employee's position in the organization. The remaining 6 were targeted at the main themes of our study. Examples of questions we asked are the following. To what extent do you perceive your job as producing a whole piece of work, which addresses the theme of job identity? And to what extent do you find your job to have a significant impact on others, which assesses the level of job significance perceived by the employees? In creating the questions for the interviews, we tried to break down the subject of motivation into several concepts and relevant theories, such as the 2-factor theory. Our intention was not to name the theories or concepts in their technical form during the interviews, but rather use everyday language in the questions we asked. After creating the transcripts for the 2 interviews, we had to open code the text. To do that, both transcripts were read carefully and split into meaningful fragments. The sections which were judged relevant to the research topic were then given appropriate names, also known as codes. In order to come up with the most suitable codes, our team employed theoretical sensitivity. We read between the lines in order to find the true most meaningful point in each fragment. Take for example the following extract. At the end, we always receive applause, so I can tell that the audience is happy with our performance. At first glance, this fragment refers to the happiness which concerts evoke in the audience. On a deeper note, however, the audience plays a role as an extrinsic motivational factor for the musicians. This is why the open code for the fragment is labeled recognition from others. Different open codes were thus created in correspondence to all relevant sections with some labels, even stemming directly from the vocabulary used by the participants. One example of such an in vivo code is the open code named showcasing. After coding the text, we ended up with 21 different open codes from the first 2 interviews, of which 3 are shown here. Memos were written down both while conducting the interviews and while performing open coding. Such theoretical and methodological reflections about the interviews and the coding process helped us to see if there were any external factors affecting the responses of the interviewees. For example, in the first interview we conducted, the interviewee laughed when saying, "Usually, the hall in the academy fits around 200 people as it isn't that big. Funny that, it used to be a gym hall during the socialist years. Then, however, people changed their interests, so they decided to praise music more." It can be implied that the interviewee is comfortable during the interview and gives honest answers. This increases the credibility of our study. Another situation of recording memos took place during the open coding. For instance, the excerpt from interview 2, "The concerts are a source of entertainment for them and it puts everyone in a better mood," was coded as "joy to others." In the memo, we recorded that this may be similar to a quote from the first interview. "I'm really satisfied because we make the others happy and we are able to provide them with entertainment in the middle of the week." This way, we found out that there are recurring topics in the 2 interviews which would be very useful for analyzing our findings. After recording all open codes and acknowledging all memos, we moved to the axial coding of the interviews. From the 21 open codes, we came up with 6 axial codes that unify the similar topics and bring the analysis to a more concrete level. An example would be the following 4 open codes. feeling inspired, recognition from others, feeling engaged, and receiving support from colleagues, which we merged into the axial code of supportive work environment. After doing the interviews and the coding, we can go back and reflect on what was good and bad in our conduct. First, as mentioned earlier, the language was not academic and the questions were short, so the subjects could fully comprehend them. In addition, we opted for open-ended, non-dichotomous questions, so employees wouldn't feel pressured to give a certain response and be able to give as much detail as they wanted. To capture as much insight as we could, we aimed at making the participants feel comfortable during the interview. We focused on trying to gain their trust, and we made sure to use overt types of encouragement through brief verbal affirmations that would encourage the interviewees to give further explanations. The participants were asked for their written informed consent prior to the interview. At the end, the interviewers thanked the musicians for their participation and asked them if they had any follow-up questions. From the evaluation of the interviews, it could be seen that when asked about extrinsic motivation factors like pay, employees stood by the idea that those were not the primary reason for their commitment to their work. Rather, both emphasized that factors such as the pleasure from playing, the thrill from performing, and the comfort from their workplace play a much greater role. The limitation laid in the fact that only one question about extrinsic factors was asked, and it was restricted to salaries, excluding other monetary rewarding methods such as bonuses that would potentially be relevant for the interviewees. Thus, in the future interviews, the participant will be asked an additional question about extrinsic factors. This was all for our video, and we would like to thank you for watching.